Well, we are back. We have been to Nottingham and we have conquered the world. Have we not, Chris Kinnear?
Oh, destroyed it.
Destroyed it. Team England represented. And I'm going to claim lots of kudos from that. I'm totally not going to refer to any ranking that any person made prior to this event about how the event went. How did you find Nottingham, Chris? Did you have a good time?
Yeah, I had a really good time. It was a really nice event. I really liked the venue, to be honest.
I've seen a couple of complaints that maybe they needed to have a better food thing, and they had it was a big sports centre. They had lots of other things, a big swimming pool and stuff going on. And we basically taken over the big central sports space. It was a bit cold in the mornings, but it was generally fine. And they had a cafe that the venue had apparently said that was going to handle all the food, and maybe struggled a bit with 400 people roughly wanting food.
I mean, I don't think they didn't pay the electric bill at one point. That was the incident.
The lights going off during our round 3 on the Saturday was hilarious.
Followed by a giant way across the entire hall. And then immediately followed by just little phone lights everywhere. It's
a
little concert.
Nobody was letting that shooting phase or movement phase be stopped. Everybody just went, no, I'll get my phone out and I'm straight on it. It was amazing. But I haven't been to one of the UKTC single events for a little while, and it was really good, actually. I quite enjoyed it. I didn't necessarily agree with the double. I didn't quite realise it was double scorched earth till I'd looked at the pack the night before, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one issue I've got with UKTC is the lack of missions. I mean, before they were playing double priority targets, so it was basically go second and you score 50 primary guaranteed, almost. But that's changed to double scorched earth, but a bit of variety might be nice in there. I'm not sure which mission you put in exactly. I need to go through the pack properly and have a look, but I'm sure you can mix it up a bit.
Well, if you guys are interested in finding out anything more detailed about the stuff we talk about tonight, we're just going to run through how our events went, and we'll have a little mention of our famed list that caused quite a stir in the England applicants Facebook chat. People were not happy if they weren't ranked or weren't listed. Apologies to Marcus Hinson, Mike Duff, and Mark Pocock, who didn't make the list, despite the fact having a channel on the Discord, because we didn't realise they were going to that event. But we will mention their final placings as we go through. Should we do the list first, or should we talk about our events first? What do you reckon?
Yeah, let's save the rankings till later, because I think less said about that the better. Let's go.
Well, let's talk about new Necrons, because that was the new hotness. Yeah. There was the most taken army out of all the ones that were there.
Over the Marines, yeah, I believe so. Yeah, but Marines are always the highest. So
poster boys for the what do we call it, for Games Workshop, aren't they at the moment? So run me through and a Necron's adventure in Nottingham, Chris. What did you play?
Yeah, so round 1, solid start. Played a Necron mirror.
but the one that didn't scare you because you thought you had the tech to beat it, right?
Yeah, it's Canop Deck Court, but it was only one unit of Immortals, and one unit of Immortals is sort of very easy to deal with my list, and that's purely down to it's honestly one of the best units in the game at the minute. It's the squad of Locust Heavy Destroyers with Mythic Annihilators, and paired with a Locust Lord with a Risen Tyrant. And what that combination does is, a lot of people miss it actually, is the Lord actually gives critical hits on 5s, the same as a Plasmancer does for Immortals. And within Mythic Annihilators having sustained 1s innately, so they go, right, okay, now they're getting sustained on 5s, and now a Risen Tyrant, every time they set up on the board, they're getting full hit rerolls. So and this unit has 36 shots.
So good, yeah.
It just has, go on.
I was going to say, is that your instant answer to an Accursed Cultist list?
Yeah, pretty much. That'll drop down, and it'll near enough kill an Accursed Cultist brick. You'll have 2 or 3 big dudes left, which is you just finish them off with a couple of Immortals, or whatever, just random pop shots just to kill them. But yeah, they were really good, and that's basically the counter for Immortals. When I was building the list, I was I knew I needed to kill Immortals, and I was like, how do I do it? And these guys 3-inch deep striking away, will do it every time.
I mean, Immortals that now have been nerfed, because literally the day before they came out, the Games Workshop came out with an FAQ to say, oh, by the way, this combination's really broken. So now it's just 2 CPs for mortal wounds, but not on anything that's got Canoptech. So it was Canoptech or...
It was Canoptech
Cryptic.
Units.
Yeah.
It was units is the change. So it went from units to models. So
So you couldn't
when a
just join a Cryptech to a squad and give it.
Yeah, so a
Yeah.
Cryptech could join a quad squad, and they made that squad have the Cryptech keyword then, right? So, but the models don't have the keyword.
Silly keyword oversight. Yeah, somebody thought for 2 CPs you'd be going, oh, look, my race have got dev wounds in combat. So cool. Whereas somebody else went, oh, look, exploding critical 5s on Immortals.
And then full wound rerolls. Yeah.
Oh,
That was
God. I mean, they
Oh,
killed
yeah.
that at the start of the edition with, what is it, Stern Guard. I mean, the Stern Guard are like that meme of stop kicking him, he's already dead. Like, because now they're the worst unit in the Marine Codex. But it's not quite as bad for Immortals. Still got play, or do you think you just won't see him now?
No, I think you'll still see them. I think they're really solid. Like before the Codex came out, I was playing a lot with like 60 Immortals.
Yes, yeah.
And Zeraz just running around. But because well, before as well, you had the Crypto Thralls in the units. So you had like 3 units that were like -1 to hit, T5, had this feel no pain on these Crypto Thralls. And they were just like, honestly, they were so ridiculous to kill. And it's just like 10 1 wound dudes. You know, like that shouldn't be hard to kill, but they're really tough. They're really, really tough. So I was running a lot before. And I think there's still some play there. So like the Awakened Dynasty, the change to the stratagems actually helped them quite a bit. So now they have access to a 1 CP strat for full hit rerolls, whereas before it was full wound rerolls, which they just don't need because they get that anyway. So they go from being, I just hitting on 2s, to now just hitting on 2s with full rerolls and crit 5s if you stick a Plasmancer in there or something. But I think the play is to run them with a Chronomancer because I'd take just crits on 6s and running and staying alive by being able to move back behind a ruin and be -1 to hit like for artillery. You're just not dying really.
So
Really strong.
what you'll notice, people, that what I've done here is accidentally opened the lid of Chris the Necron player's mind of what he thinks should run with Necrons. But we did eventually start with his opponent had 1 unit of Immortals.
I mean, now the tournament's over, I am just willing to spill everything. I will talk for hours and hours about Necrons. But yeah, so my opponent had 1 unit of Immortals, and that was it.
And what? So he's got the Wraith bricks. He's got 1 unit of Immortals.
Yeah, he had 2 units of Wraiths and Immortals. He had 2 Doomstalkers, and he took a unit of Locust Destroyers, like the 6-man brick with the Lord. Not majorly efficient in Canoptek Court, but they're fine. They're still good output. They're just not great into me because I always get the jump on them, so they just died before they got to do anything effectively.
And the final score in that game was?
It was 100 to 90.
Ooh, so he scored quite high then.
Yeah, so I mean, going into this tournament, it's like 350 player event or wherever it was. It was you had to score very high. So like quite quickly on, like by like turn 2, I'm like, all right, I've worked out my opponent, and now all I'm trying to do is go, all right, how do I score 100 points? I don't care what they score as long as I score 100, which is very, very, very different mentality to how I normally play in teams. But it's like the top court was 4, and there was going to be I think it was like 12 undefeated or something like that at the end of it.
Yeah.
So you really had to score highly. So these early rounds, you had to score 100 points, so you were really struggling. So it was a case of how do I score 100, and I don't really care what my opponent's doing.
So that's good game. So good round 1. Where did you bounce into round 2?
Wouldn't you guess? I played Canoptek Court again.
Oh, for God's sake. This is not the Necron channel. We are not sponsored by Codex Necrons. I mean, so did you find anything more difficult in this game? Or did the first game just give you the confidence that you played Canoptek Court, you know what it does, I'm setting it up, I'm beating Canoptek Court?
Yeah, I mean, generally my game plan in Canoptek Court is just kill the Immortals as soon as possible, and then there's nothing in that army that can kill 3 Catans. And that was the idea of the list.
Yeah, the Wraiths just kind of slap at them a little bit, don't they?
They do nothing. And like on average, if you get like 2 Catans into a Wraith brick, they'll kill it over 2 turns. So that's the general game plan every time of like just sort of tie them down. I'll outshoot and fight them in combat, and then I'll out OC them because I'll just throw some Immortals or some Tomb Blades on the Adedo with them at the same time. And that's generally how it went.
And who's your second round opponent?
That was a lovely chap called James Rouse. Really nice game that was. Did I say my first round?
I don't know if you did actually.
It was a lovely guy called Lee. what was his last name? Lee McBride. Both absolute stellar opponents. First 2 games, really nice guys. So thanks to the
I
game
will
guys.
say I didn't see any or hear about any really acrimonious games this event, and it was generally was run. The refs seemed to do a pretty good one, and I base this on the fact that the last one there was some issues with people being quite shouty at opponents and some massive rules issues, and do you know what I mean? So
there was issues, and I mean, let's take a moment to talk about that, Tony. I think if you're going to an event, and you want to like, if you if it's one of your first events or you've been to like some smaller events and you come to a big event trying to sort of get in sort of into the community, I think just be nice. Like there's nothing worse than playing versus someone and they're constantly trying to gotcha. They're constantly just trying to like do some clock manipulation.
yeah,
on
there's a
you.
couple of times
Just,
I put a clock in and then I forgot to do the clock, or I left it on my opponent. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, don't worry about it. We're not going to play for like I'm not trying to time you out. It's just I've got to be strict on my clock practice, and that's just part of going to WTC prep. I think the gotchas are a funny one. I'll talk about my games. There was one where my opponent forgot something that was I didn't think it had a big thing on the game. It gave me a chance to get some more points, but I think I was still behind. But like you kind of go, well, some are big, some are small. If it's in your own turn, you see, I'll always go, if it's in your own turn, you've forgotten, that's fine. If it's out of your own turn, I'd say ask, and then I'll have to weigh up whether I think, if it's a big thing in the game, I'd probably say no. Because WTC, I'd expect you to tell me no. And when I have asked things like that, I'm always like, it's absolutely fine, dude. Yeah. And sometimes people apologising, I'm like, don't apologise, dude. If you think it's too big, it's too big. That's okay. And that's on me, and I won't make that mistake again, So, if you are worried about going to your first event, though, generally the UKTC events are pretty good ones to go to because they are the same format, the same terrain. Everybody knows what they're doing. Lots of people have been to them before, so it's very easy to kind of pick up and get into the swing of. They do the handy little mission packs that tells you everything as you go through. That is a bonus for anybody. God, back in the days, you had to go find one rule book and find the mission and then find the map.
That's the single best thing about UKTC. Those little books you get, it's amazing. Honestly, I love it.
It's such a low, probably not massively low cost, but low cost, little thing for them to put in place that you can take away, takes you next UKTC event, practice with away from the event. It's really clever, I think, from them. Just another little few marketing things to go branded, help you practice our events and as they try to push their place as one of the biggest or the biggest tournament organizer in the UK. So that's 2 games won on a Saturday. We're into game 3. Is it 3 Necrons in a row, Chris?
It's not. It's not 3 Necrons in a row.
Boo.
Thank goodness. Game 3. Oh, my score. We didn't do scores in round 2. So round 2 came down to I was on 98 points in my turn 4, and it was kill more, hold more. And to max primary, I had to kill a Catan. And I put everything into this Catan.
No.
And I left it on 2 wounds. It was heartbreaking. I was like, no, that's my 100 points gone. Ended up on 98. So I was a 98-83. Again, high scoring game for both of us, really. So again, just keeping that.
So good wins.
That pattern going.
But
yeah.
Necrons score high. Necrons play the game well. Necrons going to play missions and get points, and they're not easy to kill. I mean, it's all stuff we've seen in the previous book with the index, but they double down in some areas, depending on the attachment you take now.
My list is just like it turns up to the table and just scores 40 secondary points pretty much just automatically. Yeah. It's so good.
So who was round 3?
Game 3 was a lovely guy called Stuart Cohen. A big shout out to Stu. So he turned up to the game, and immediately he's like, look, just so you know, this is my first ever tournament. So, if I get anything wrong, I'll apologise. And he was very clear in sort of how he wanted to play, just have a nice game. I was like, yeah, totally chill. I could tell he was a little bit nervous because he started just reeling off like all his army lists and everything before we'd even like sort of greet each other. And he was just like telling me what everything did. I was like, oh, just chill out. It's all right. It's all right. But yeah, honestly, he was a fantastic player. Really, really knew what he was doing. So obviously he'd gone 2-0 already at his first event. Runs into me, is a little unlucky. But he's really, really nice guy and was really sort of switched on. He knew all his rules like to perfection. He knew sort of the core rules of the game really well. And he came down from Scotland. So I actually did went and spoke to Innes a little bit afterwards about him, because I asked Stu at the table if he was like interested in sort of WTC or anything like that, and thought, you know, Scottish guys are always looking for players. So I thought, go have a quick word with Innes, tell him about him, and hopefully he got introduced. But yeah,
That's awesome,
really
dude.
nice guy, really good player.
So day one, Big
Yeah,
Chris.
so 100 to 79 in the end. So I dropped 2 points on day one.
Big Chris doesn't have a night out. He stays in. He rests his eyes. He has a
Oh
good
yeah,
gift.
until about whatever time you guys came back in the morning.
No comment.
There is a video. There is a video, but
There's a video of a half asleep Chris being woken by a teammate going, "Yeah, Chris, we're in the final." Chris is completely asleep still, going, "Yay, yay," and then going click and snoring 2 seconds later. It is quite funny.
that's how it goes. That's how it goes.
Tournament zombie. So you come again Sunday, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. What have you got drawn for the Sunday morning? Then you've obviously spent the evening going, I'm hoping I'm getting a good draw. What came out on Saturday night?
So Eldar, Chris Patterson. So very, very good player. Plays a lot. Part of the tryhard team. If you're looking to sort of get into 40k guys, if you're sort of looking for a community to sort of help you introduce you into the game, I'd really recommend the tryhard guys, because they're really sort of doing good things in the community. There's a lot of people sort of playing that team, and I think there's a Discord. I think we can try and put the Discord link in this episode, Tony. That'd be good.
Homework for me. Find the try hard Discord. Yep. Okay.
I can send that to you. But really recommend sort of getting involved there. You can always find TTS games and anything, and just sort of hit any sort of hints and tips about sort of factions. So yeah, really good group of guys. I knew this was going to be rough. It's Eldar. It's really difficult. Like, no matter what, Phantasm is just a pain.
There was a point when you were playing towards the end of that game, and I came over and I was like, somebody was going, "Oh, Chris has lost it," and you all looked so tense.
I had genuinely lost this game. Like a couple of rounds of just real bad dice. But that just happens.
So then, what pulled it back?
Good dice.
Oh dear.
Good dice
the
pulled
dice
it
gods
back.
Smiled on you.
They did.
We're gonna have words about these dice gods in a minute, but let's go.
Yeah, there's the next round. We'll talk about them. So what happened here is turn 4. Like, again, I was debating. It's like, do I? Because it was Scorched Earth, and the only real way to Scorched Earth is like to get 100 points is to burn your enemy's home objective. So my game plan quite early on was to just turtle down for like maybe 1 or 2 turns, but by turn 3 I have to be on his backfield. I have to be pushing him. So I attempted that. I think I went for it turn 3. Because turn 2 I deep struck in my mythic squad and just split fired all 3 of them into 3 different squads and killed all 3, just so we got rid of his screens in the backfield.
Yeah.
So it allowed me, just opened up a big hole, so I could both do a 3-inch deep strike and 9-inch deep strikes in his backfield to get to his 2 night spinners on his home objective. So I dropped in the Void Dragon, a unit of heavies with the anti-tank guns, and a unit of immortals 3 inches away. And the plan here was to just kill one of the night spinners and then shoot and move onto his home objective.
Okay.
But it started off well. So the Void Dragon, I get his big anti-tank shot through, which is good. Hits on 2s, wounds on 2s, and gets a 6-up save versus. That goes through. I think it does like 6 damage or something like that. And then his other attack does a few more damage. Leaves him on, I think, like 2 or 3 or 4 wounds or something like that. It wasn't a lot at all. His mortal wound ability failed on a 2-up. Rolled a 1 for that, which is unfortunate, as you'll hear in a minute. Then my anti-tank guns shot. All 3 of them missed. And I was like, this is an issue. And I think, he must have been on like 3 or 4 wounds. So I was like, oh, maybe the immortals will spike and kill him. Left him on 1 wound. And I was like, if that 2-up would have gone through, he'd be dead. Or just any anti-tank gun hits, he's dead. It's just,
And that gets you the objective and moves you on
and
there. And
gets me
takes
the objective,
primary.
denies his objective, and then the next turn allows me to burn his home objective with no contention, because it just would have been a night spinner sat on there with nothing else that could reach them. Um, so it would have been a massive swing in the game in my favor. But what instead happened then is those two night spinners killed an immortal squad on my home objective that allowed the Incarn to teleport onto my home objective and get capture enemy outpost. Yeah,
Dice be
exactly.
fickle. Dice be fickle.
So it was pretty rough at one point, but I managed to squeak it by his turn 5 because I'd gone second, giving him a 0 primary. I really had to try for that, and then I managed to, and that was because my Catan, my Transcendent Catan, which is an absolute hero, went in and killed 7 Wraithguard between shooting and combat.
Ooh. Ooh.
Absolute
As an old up player,
champion.
that gives me shivers. That's like, oh no, 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 no. That's no, thank you.
Absolute hero. I mean, he should kill a few. He has got good profile into them, but he really just powered up. Like when I got my melee wounds through, rolling my D6 damage, like every single one was a 3-up, so it was just killing them. There was no inefficiencies at all, so I got a bit lucky there to bring it back, and that was just an 83-79 win in the end. Chris played that really well, did everything he needed to, but just the dice swung a bit both ways, and I ended up just coming out on the good side of that.
So that's 4 wins, big wins.
Yep.
Heading
4
into the
good
5th
wins.
round, and we draw
Josh Roberts on Lumin Canoptek Court. So that is 3 games out of 5 I've played versus Canoptek Court.
And at least you're playing the guy who's running more Immortals this time, isn't he? Because he's
playing
playing
20.
Yeah, so he's definitely playing on that broken strap that was already basically nerfed, but they let run for the event because it came too late.
Yeah. And this game, like, I saw before the draw had even been done, I was like, what's the mission? I was like, it's corners with 15 primary, like hold 3 for 15. So I was like, just don't give me Josh. Just anyone but 18 Wraiths. I'll happily play anything but that, because there's just no way I can stop him getting like 15s for a couple of turns. It's just not possible.
It just runs out, doesn't he, and goes, I've got these blocks, and you'll get through them, but not quick enough to stop him scoring primary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if he's scoring 10s, it's fine because I can match him on primary and I'll beat him on secondaries. But when he's scoring 15s, that's not happening. So we went into this game and it's corner deployment, so he's just on top of me instantly. There's nowhere to do any of my tricks, any little jank. It's extremely difficult to hide Catan on this deployment because the Immortals are basically in the middle of the board instantly. So they just move out 11 inches in whatever direction they want, and if my Catan are on an objective, they just die. So it's just a real rough round to get this list against. And it just went from there, I suppose. So it starts off and is a bad match, and the dice just did not go my way at all here. So my Catan were like a Transcendent and a Nightbringer over like 2 rounds of shooting and combat, killed like 2 Wraiths. It was just horrific.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's just bad, and everything just died. Like 5 Wraiths would shoot a Tombblade squad and kill them like completely, and it was like 3 Wraiths would fight 5 -1 to hit Immortals in combat and just kill them all. And it was just like, oh, it was relentless. So yeah, it was just bad. I'd lost basically my entire army by like turn 2 over the Catan, so it was just game over from there. Really bad times.
And that's still a pretty good run. 4-1 at a 350-man event, and hitting a former England captain with the top of the meta list that is obviously done really well. And Josh would go on to win the event, would win both of his bracket games in the final 4, was one of the top 4 score. I think it was the top scorer going in, possibly.
Yeah, I think Josh scored like 400 points or something, or 500 points. Did he drop any
I
points?
don't think he dropped
going
any
into it?
points, and he went into the top and scored another 200 points in his
Yeah,
final 2 games. So he was absolutely smashing it. So
yeah.
no shame in that. Do you think you'll make any tweaks to the list, or is it dramatic overhaul after the event? Is there some things you go, actually that was maybe I thought it would work differently, or I'd need to change it, or the core is still the Tomb Blades, the triple Catan, and you're working from there?
Yeah, honestly, I really like the list. The list's fantastic. I think after if we were playing post nerf, I think even on that deployment, I still win, because it just allows me then to just put my Catan wherever I want. Um,
But
because
Lady
the issue
Luck be fickle.
was, yeah, I mean the issue was I had to deploy them on the sides away from ruins, and then they're having to like spend like 2 movements
Oh well,
before
dude,
they
if
even
if
get
you've
anywhere.
got no fear of any shooting from his army, that means that
Exactly.
build has to. I mean, that build then has to change, doesn't it? I think maybe Canoptech Core will be less popular, and you'll see a lot more Hyperphase, because if you haven't got the ability to put out 2 relatively cheap units but that kill big targets really well, what does it in that list? The Wraiths don't.
There's literally nothing in that list that kills Catan.
So
There's
then
nothing.
you have to pivot to. I reckon you're going to see 18 destroyers. Sorry, nine heavy destroyers or something like that. Maybe the Doomstalkers. They're reasonable shooting still, aren't they?
I don't know. Like the only thing, like Immortals will still damage Catan if they're on objectives, but while they're off objectives,
That's it.
really,
Relying on somebody to be on an objective to kill their big things is always dangerous, because then they can
yeah.
just throw other stuff, or they can just shield the objective or screen the objective. I think that's difficult. Well, dude, that's a pretty good
We'll see.
run, and no shame in that as an end result. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you very
Pretty
much.
good run.
Yeah.
I didn't have the same run. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, but
Go on, Tom, let's do it.
Well, I had 5 great games. I played Thomas Winfield, who's running Orcs, and he likes to run a big forge-world unit because he's got a massive Orc collection. So last event, I think he was telling me he was running. Did he run a kill tank? He ran some big, huge forge-world monstrosity. And this one, he's like, I've got to get the Stomper, not the Stomper out. This is the Gargantuan
Squig
Squigger,
off.
because it's amazing. And he's like, but it looks, and it is, that model looks so cool, and it's so big. It looks like something between Lord of the Rings and 40k.
I've not seen it.
It's
I've
it's
still
got
not
a
seen
massive
it.
tusk. Moving it like as some of the guys had said to me pre-game, I didn't quite realize it's the only deployment during a war where you can actually put it so that in the first turn he can just move it out of his deployment zone. All the other ones he has to position it at a certain point in that quarter, because weirdly UKTC don't really like it. Land Raiders really struggle on that terrain. Things like a Squiggers really struggle. I suppose they do have certain fire lanes, but like depending on what angle you're at, sometimes those boards can feel really dense. Like drawing a line of sight through can be a real nightmare. So he deployed that with 20 boys in, and then he had like Beast Boss, the boss knob on the Squigosaur with a little squad of the riders, a couple of trucks, a couple of cannons, and I got to go first. And we talked. Whenever I play games against anybody, I always go, "What do you think in terms of the game? Is that what you thought? Did you think I made any mistakes into your list? Is there anything you think I would do different?" And vice versa. Tom was lovely to play, but the game was pretty much. It was first turn 1 was kiting each other. Turn 2, I just went, well, this Squigger's just moved out, and I'm gonna have to go for it. But turn 1, he'd left the boss knob with the 6 boys just out in the open, because he was like, well, I thought that this. We both wanted to flip to a flank and like turn the Dawn of War into Hammer and Anvil, but my push meant that I could go, right, well, 10 Wart Spiders, 10 Shadow Spectres, and 3 bikes and an Autarch can all push one flank and shoot and kill this whole unit in one go. And his flank just collapsed. So he pushes out with the trucks and the Squiggoth, and then the big boy Wraith Guard unit stepped up and did 24 wounds out of 30 to the Squiggoth in shooting, which was pretty bad. And then
That'll do it.
yeah,
Ouch. How many wounds does it have?
30. And then Fugan fluffed it, because Fugan had a weekend of fluffing it, and then I finished him off with the Night Spinner because it rolled 2 6s naturally, and then I just went fake dice, thank you, it's dead. So killed that, and then the boys inside got killed by charging just other things. On the same turn, I draw a capture enemy outpost, so 5 Wart Spiders flamed off a unit of Gretchen, and the Solitaire went over there just to make sure. So like, and then the 10 Wart Spiders I couldn't kill the truck that had the knob unit in with the war boss, so I had to charge it and wrap it with 10 Wart Spiders, which was just kind of so by the end of his turn 2, He had Mosrog and a truck screened in a corner by 5 water spiders, and then he had a truck wrapped by water spiders, and then everything else was dead.
Ouch.
And I designed the list to be fast, but you think it's fast on paper, and then you play it in reality, and you go, "Oh yeah, Eldar really fast."
Oh
And
yeah,
I think,
Eldar's stupid fast, dumb.
yeah, and I love that about 40k units. I prefer things that can move again, have the ability to get themselves out of trouble. I think that was a really good game for that. I bounced from that great game with Tom into JC Room with Dark Angels, and that. Now I think this is a mission thing. I got a draw here, and I had a great game against Jay. We played once before ages ago, and I was using Eldar Planes. He was using Knights. That was very one-sided. This was my dice deserted me in this game, and I feel like the culprits for this are the Wart Spiders, and they went hot, cold, hot, cold, hot. And if they went cold, my game was a real struggle because I brought 20 Wart Spiders in a 10-5-5. They went hot, it was amazing. And I think I love the 10-man. I think it looks cool. It's really daunting for your opponent. But in my head, I'm like, is this going to roll well, or is this going to roll badly? And there's no buffs you can give it. There's no reroll to wound for Eldar. There's +1 to wound from Eldrad, which is situational, and getting it in position is awkward. Gives up potential secondaries, and he's 100 points. Like, you're just not taking that. So he had Dark Angels with the command squad in a Vanguard, though, and I haven't seen this particular combo where he's got a repulsor, just a transport repulsor with 10 Hellblasters Nazi. So they're giving the CP and jumping in the tank every turn. The squad jumps up every turn. He's got a couple of squads of infiltrators, one with a Phobos Libby, one without. 2 Lancers, 2 Whirlwinds. And it doesn't sound like a lot of stuff, but in Kill More, Hold More, he just sat on objectives and went, cool. Lone Op, tanks behind a wall, guys inside a repulsor, Terminator command squad. I have one Night Spinner. It's not killing a lot. I sent a blip, and then it's things like, my game was, I shot a Night Spinner at a squad and killed one of the infiltrators. So I thought, well, get kill and kill more by charging this assassin in. So assassin charges in and kills 1.5 infiltrators between AOC and Feel No Pains. And I'm like, this guy's got 12 attacks, hitting on 2s, and I rolled 6 ones. And I was like, yeah, great. And then I did 4 wounds. He passed 2, passed a Feel No Pain. I'm like, this is just crazy bad. On the other flank, my turn 2, I shot Fugan and 6 of the Wraith Guard into that repulsor, and I left it on 2 wounds, even with a Fate Dice 6 for damage. And I'm like, oh my god. It was just ridiculous. So those little things like that meant that I kept losing kill and kill more, because where I'd had to put stuff out and I expected things to die on average dice, they hadn't, and he just had something come back. And the Hellblasters were really difficult for my build to deal with, because all of my shooting is 12 or 18 inch range, and this unit wants to sit in the open with a Forest Invuln, and if you do kill it, shoot you back. And the shots are really lethal into pretty much all of the profiles that I brought for this particular army. Triple Night Spinner would eat him. Triple Night Spinner would just go, that unit's slow, that unit's dead. Doesn't care. But I mean, I'd specifically not brought Triple Night Spinner in the style of Yockel, who got through to the final, and I was only to lose against Josh. You know, Triple Night Spinner, Yunkan, 10 Wraith Guard and characters is the lean, mean Eldar build where you don't need a Farseer, you don't need any chaff. You just go like Swooping Hawks, a couple of Wart Spiders, they play the mission. The Incarn goes around, does her thing, and the Triple Night Spinners pick where the Incarn goes every turn. And it's super reliable and super efficient. Here, Jay thought that the not having the Incarn was a big thing for him. He's like, if you had the Incarn, I'd maybe lose the game. You have a Triple Night Spinner, that's hard for him as well. And at one point we thought I'd lost the game, but then we realised Jay made a mistake with some attacks in combat and something, and we were like, we just decided to call it a draw. We rolled it, and we rolled a roll off, and I went, on a 4+ you win the game, mate, and on a 1-3 other way, and he said, can we have a draw? And I went, yeah, fine. He was a great guy, I had a great game, and I didn't. He was very gentlemanly to when we realised he'd made a mistake to go, oh well, should we change the scores? And I didn't want to end my second game with him, so in a bad way. And we had a great laugh about it, and it was a really, really good laugh. But oh my god, my dice were just terrible. The Wart Spiders that did really well in the first game did nothing in this game.
Roll a few ones from the shots, did you, Tony?
No, they did an okay number of shots, but when you're wounded on 4s and 6s of dev, the average of dev wounds isn't really that great. And I suppose you're always relying on them rolling higher. So that was okay. And then the terror unit for me was the Terminator Command Squad, because he kept pulling it out off the table every turn, dropping it in or do the rapid ingress. And then it's got the +1 to charge, so it's just always going for a +1 to charge on some weird flank. And it was really difficult for me to play around, and the Wraith Bomb always had to get away from it because I can't really take a charge from that unit particularly well. It could fluff, but there's a good chance it does a lot of damage to the bomb, and once I'm tagged, it's difficult. Fugun did not do well that game. It was close. He did have a big swing of luck at the end. With the last turn, he got capture enemy outpost, and killed my Farseer, even with a CP roll on an armor save to get assassinate, and got 21-point swing because I was down and pulled it up again, and then he caught right back up, and I was like, that's cards. Do you know what I mean? If he draws the perfect combo of cards and to get kill and hold more at the end, I'm like, there's just nothing I can do. And I'd been behind for a couple of turns at the start. Just a hard game, and I don't think. I look back at it and go, I don't really think there's anything I can do apart from, I don't know. I put all the chaff units in reserve because kill more is really difficult, and this is the round where some other players like Will Whittaker, who we picked for our top seed, dropped some points. Vic dropped some points as well. I think people maybe play this mission, kill more, hold more. Purge, isn't it? To go,
it's so different.
I'm going to build my army and hope I get a good match in that. But if you play a guy who doesn't give up a lot of kill points like I got, and then he's got, well, you've got 5 spiders there, or you got a Farseer and a bike there, or you got a Night Spinner that I can, attrition over a couple of turns of whirlwinds. Really difficult.
It is, and it's like, it's just such a different way of playing, and I really like that. I wish there was a bit more variety like that in the cards.
Do you know what? It used to be, previous editions had missions like that, and you had to build for it, and you had to play missions where you didn't have to give kill points, and WTC sometimes had kill points for a couple of years where they added it in as a secondary, because there was a point where, I think it was, I want to say 8th edition, or even 7th, where GW took all the kill point things out of the game, so you could just go, well then, if I just spam loads of little units, I win the games. And the game became, for a short period of time, about how many units you could fit in your army, because it was just like, I can just hold the objective based on number of models on it, and I just win. So they had to put something in to comp it, along with their own terrain pack. But I had a great game against Jay. We had a good laugh all the way through, and it was really close all the way through, just because my army and his was not a good match. So I was a bit down with the draw, but I was like, you know what, I haven't lost, and it was 77. A 77-point win would have probably not seen me getting to the top anyway, because the reality is, like you were saying, losing a 2 or 3 point, loss in getting a win with 2 or 3 points dropped means that you're still quite off the pace. And I saw that with other players over the weekend who would go on 4 and even 5-0, but they're well down in the placing. It's just because they dropped 20, 30 points. And I ended my Saturday playing a guy called James Colley running guard, and I saw guard and went, oh, I hope this isn't the list that the team's been styling recently, which is just artillery spam. Wasn't, but he had the Rogel Dawn, Tank Commander, Demolisher, Basilisk, Manticore, the Solar reroll squad, and then some Bulgrin and some Kazakin.
Just one Manticore and one Basilisk.
Yeah, just one of each. And
that's much easier for you.
Yeah, if I'm honest with you, they didn't really do much over the course of the game, because one of each with the odd buff is okay. Once again, I discovered that if I can't get my Wraith Guard unit into something, it's hard for me to kill mech with just like a Fugun and possibly an Autarch. And that Rogel Dawn survived for bloody ages, but my luck in this game was the reverse of the other one, where I managed to flame an entire tank down with all the Watt Spiders. The first shot of the game was Fugan got himself in half range with a melter and popped a tank. Popped a Chimera with a load of guys in. The Night Spinner went mental and just wiped the whole unit out. And I was like, yep, this is great. Love it. No, that was it the other way around. The Night Spinner went 6 hits, 5 mortals, and killed the Chimera once Fugan had looked over at it, and the Autarch charged in and ruined it. Yeah, I was like, this is great. And there's a point in my first turn where James went, do you roll anything but 6s? And I was like, you could use I was using the Eldar dice by GW, and I was like, these dice are deciding to...
You weren't using our dice, Tony. What are you doing?
Our dice were the fate dice, and they were chef's kiss. Okay, I rolled so many 6s on them the first time. Well, I didn't want to... I didn't want to intimidate too much and be nice and go,
Okay,
Team England
understand.
40k, these are the dice. Plus, I was giving some away every time, so I gave some, just to make it easy, I gave a few to each person I played over the weekend. So that, nice and easy. Anyway, I'm running Eldar. I've never used my Eldar dice. Shush. So that one was a reasonable win. That was a 93 in the end for me. Just because once you start killing the fast elements of guard and infantry, yeah, the artillery's there, but I was left with I wasn't left with much. I was left with a race guard bomb, a solo character, and a night spinner on a couple of wounds. But I had the table in terms of I pushed him right back. It does make me wonder whether you have to go like heavy flamers and stuff and be aggressive with those tanks rather than just sitting them still all game and just go. It's extra units to tank shock to be. Do you know what I mean? If you're playing a game where the attrition's a bit, because he did kill all the chaff in the end. He did get most of the stuff that could die dead. But it was a great game, really lovely guy, really nice way to play the game at the end of the day. So I went 2 and a draw on Saturday. I wasn't unhappy with that, and I'm like, right, well, I'm thinking, okay, I'll get a nice match in the morning, and I'll probably get a tougher match in the second one, because not many people who will have had a draw. So I look in the draw pool, and there's one other person on the draw. And it's Will Bloody Whitaker, who we had at the top of our pairing list with his Curse Bomb that we all think is the best list in the game.
Isn't Eldar really good into a curse? I thought they were really
I'd
good
actually
into a curse.
I'd teched a version of the list originally to play a cursed a bit more heavily, but I mean, looking at who was there, there weren't actually that big people running a cursed, because to actually go and get these 25, £30 boxes that have got 2 torments and 5 guys, you get 5 guys and 2 torments in a box. It's something crazy like that. It is hundreds of pounds just to build the accursed units. So not many people have got that or converted it or whatever. But lucky me, I got to play Will, and we got to play in Scorched Earth again. And again, that's a great mission for the accursed. And Will got to go second, which was a heartbreaker for me, because if you go in second, he gets the burn at the end. And I didn't do badly, but this was another one where game 1, Wart Spiders, anything they flamed died. Game 2, Wart Spiders, anything they flamed didn't take any damage. In this game, 11 Wart Spiders on my go turn. I killed one a curse brick down to 3 or 4 guys. The Solitaire was once again terrible. Ran in, precisioned out the Mind Witch she did 12 attacks, hitting on 2s with a reroll. We'd done 3s with a reroll, got 3 wounds through before saves. And exactly. And he just failed it with a CP reroll to kill the Mind Witch. And then the Spiders flamed, and the Spiders did 11d6, did 28 hits.
That's not great.
That's not great. I did 13 wounds with 3 devs.
So you killed
a handful of chaff, because they had saves, and honestly, it was that annoyed me more than anything else, because I was like, this unit. And I'll skip forward to a couple of games where one of my opponent last week, the weekend, the same unit rolled 48 shots and killed a vehicle on Overwatch with just dev.
I should every time.
I know. So that was a really good game. There were some swings back and forth. There was one mistake I made where I didn't anticipate that a Lord charging with a good advance could make a big enough charge with his pile-in to see my Spirit Seer in the Wraith unit in the middle of the board to do precision to the Heroic Challenge. And then he got him in, and the Chaos Lord did 4 wounds with no devs, and I passed all 4 of my saves without using my auto 6. And he's like, I've never seen that happen before in my life. And I'm like, yes, it's good, isn't it? And then in return, he left the Torment out. He moved some stuff on the unit, moved the Torment out, left the Torment out of the ruin that hadn't been able to consolidate back in. And I shot and killed that unit. And he was a bit annoyed with himself that he made that mistake. And that's one of those ones where we were really pushed for time, because I think we were both thinking about the early games a bit too slow. We had to rush the last couple of turns. It was a really good game. I actually think that if I play that again, there's a few things that I could do better that I made mistakes on, and that's a double whammy of I've played a curse before, but not with this build of Eldar, and I'm not practiced enough with this build of Eldar. And even with the Wart Spiders rolling rubbish, I think I'd probably deploy that army differently and push in a different way. So I'd push the spiders one side and the wraith. I'd probably push the wraith up a flank. I might concede the middle a little bit and just see where he goes, because ultimately, I think I've got some tools there to play the angles with my moving and shooting on multiple units. And the Spectres were really good. So I took a unit of Arilith and 10 Shadow Spectres. Their blast shooting was where you get to go, yeah, you know what? Hitting on 2s with potential rerolls is great. But again, wounding on 4s is a mare. It is the kind of thing where you do go, if you did take that and you did go and take Eldrad and you did pop the +1 to wound, that would be a really scary unit for a lot of things. So
yeah.
I lost that one, but not by loads. I think in the end it was a 20 because we just went through that last turn. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm not pushing to see if I could. Do you know what I mean? In terms of time and rolling out, I could do all these attacks over here. I was like, I'm going to move this here. I'm going to shoot this here. I'll probably take that. That's fine. And we had to be quick. But it was a good game from Will. I think he was pretty happy, but was very nervous about the Shadow Spectre unit actually, because I guess if you kill those accursed bricks early, then his board presence is very limited, because the chosen units do fall over. AOC is really their only defense. It is easy enough to kill them. I had terrible cards in that game as well, Chris. Oh, my first turn was capture enemy outpost and tempting target, and I was like,
Squim.
Yeah.
That's that tempting target's not that bad for Eldar. But you don't have little squads of like hawks or anything to throw away, do you, to do that? So it's I can see why that's annoying.
No, sorry, it was behind enemy lines. A lie. It was behind enemy lines, and I could only get it with one Wart Spider squad, and I had to sacrifice a Wart Spider squad to get it first turn. I was like, I don't really want to sacrifice a squad, but I need to get points on the board against this army. You can't afford to trash cards every turn and get zeros.
Yeah.
So I blocked the rhinos for a turn, but it wasn't great.
That's fine though. It's an expected loss, I think, Tony.
Everybody saw that and thought I was going to lose. Not a single person went, "Oh, Tony's got a chance." And again, like I said, I had a list that had a bit more tech and a bit more blasting, a bit more shots, but I teched down a little bit, and then my other games were probably better for that teching down.
Yeah.
Like the Incarn. Will actually again was another opponent who said I think people just have this innate fear of the Incarn and what it could do. But I look at his army and go, well, I pop a Rhino, it jumps over, it charges the Lord, it maybe kills the squad, and the Lord might even survive and then damage the Incarn, and then the Incarn's dead. Like that. That's how that Incarn feels. I remember watching Vic play against Liam VSL's list at LGT in the finals in the bracket, and just watching him have to throw that Incarn in because he needs to kill something with it, and then it just died. See that CSM build with 3 blocks of 25, 30 guys, 3 squads of killer guys and rhinos, Celestian reserve, a fortified in reserve. There's no chaff to get. There's no support unit that you want to kill that guts the army. I think Incarn in that list really struggles.
It does nothing, literally nothing.
But I came out of that one quite chipper actually, because I was like, I see the routes where I'm thinking maybe if I do a bit of practice that, and the accursed are probably going to go. We all think OC2 accursed at the price point that they are with the gameplay and the buffs they have. I mean, we just think they're going to go. There was a point where
they're going to go up in points. I think it's inevitable.
Yeah, there was a point where I think it was turn 5. As we're trying to push my primary back at the end and score his objectives, he's like, I've got this unit that's failed Battle Shock, but I'm going to pop the once per game ability to do advanced charge and the +1 to hit and wound, and I'm going to grow 3 guys back, and I'm just like, just does everything, doesn't it? It's a combat unit that has an invuln, I feel no pain, the ability to grow back, multiple wound models to tank things on, and is OC2. It can advance and charge, it can have +1 to hit, it can have +1 to wound, it's got good damage. Name me a rule that you would like it to have. Deep Strike?
Put it on it.
It's probably the only thing it doesn't have. And you're like,
does it not have Scout? Give it Scout 10, I reckon. That's balanced.
Oh yeah, I reckon Scout 12, mate. Just it doesn't really do enough. Let's just give it Infiltrate. Screw it. Just infiltrate the damn thing. But anyway, I bounced from that, and I was like, okay, I hope I get a good game at the end of the weekend. I've had a really nice weekend. I'd like a nice, fun game, and I got our first supporter on Patreon, Lewis. Lewis, you're an absolute hero. You'd come to see me right at the start of the week going, Tony, I'm your supporter. Because we started our Team England Patreon, and Lewis was one of the first to sign up for us. We've got a couple of people on there at the moment, and he was running a list that I've seen go wrong into Eldar for the Eldar, which is the Chaos Knights. So he's got the
It can, yeah.
Stalker, and a load of Brigands. I think it was 6 Brigands, 4 Carnivores, and then Nurgling Swarms and Changeling. And I'm like, oh, okay. And the Nurgling Swarms were just annoying in this because he just throws them all out to do objectives and it gives them a bit more play whilst Knights run at you. And you have to kind of play around the fact that you don't want to give a chance for his Knights to dogpile you.
Yeah.
And this was the game where, again, my dice went hot, cold, hot to finish the weekend. So, first turn I killed 2 Knights. Second turn I killed 3 Knights. And then on Overwatch, he went to Rapid Ingress's Deep Stricken Chaos Knight on a flank. And I brought down the 10 Wart Spiders. And I was like, screw it, you're going to kill him, I'm going to Overwatch. And I rolled 48 shots and rolled exactly 12 death wounds. And then the following turn, he drew his cards and he had Capture Enemy Outpost and Bring It Down. And I had a Night Spinner on my home objective. And if that knight had lived, it probably would have killed that tank and got that objective. It was a really big, like, one of those ones you go, screw it. But, it was a great game. And, Lewis was a good opponent because in the face of things like he's going, oh, bloody Eldar. Like, I have the Relic in my army that lets me reroll a Fate dice every turn. And I just kept rolling it into a 5 or a 6 every time. It's like, yay, great.
That's always handy, isn't it? Really useful to have.
Oh, yeah, completely. And then in return, his shooting was not great. The Solitaire charged in on Blitz and failed to kill the Blue Scribes. The Solitaire did not have a good weekend. I need to either repaint that dude or have a serious talking to him because he did no favours for me. He was your suggestion, Chris Kadir. You were like, I think you'd love the Solitaire. He's really good. He'd be really good
if you can roll dice.
Well, shush your face, you. Oh my god. I think that is the problem with him. Like, I wasn't worried about him all. He did great in the Orc game. But after the Orc game, he peaked and then he killed some Grots and that was it. -2 AP, 2 damage, and strength 6 is that kind of worst of all of the stats that you want. It's fine in an accursed unit because you've got guys rolling loads of attacks or rerolls. Him on his own, a 3 wound character with a 3+ invo, basically just like basic line infantry will take him down. He's just not survivable. Very much if you need to remove your character or utility, but that's what he's good for. But if they don't have that in the list, he's an expensive loan up for what he brings. And I'm looking at potentially maybe he switches to a second Way Leaper. Because the extra fusion, the extra character with grenades, the extra guard that can go 20 inches, like he can, but then shoot a fusion gun, throw some grenades, do you know what I mean? Has fights first. That feels like a better unit to me than the Solitaire for the same points.
Yeah.
3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Yeah, it's
solid.
It was solid. I think the list needs changes though. The warts, I love the 10 Wart Spiders, but it's just not reliable enough. And I think if I were to take that to a team event, I don't think I could come back to the team after having lost the game and not brought the points and go, oh, well, I lined up my whole army, but it was contingent on these 11 guys rolling the average of 38 hits, but I rolled 28, and then I rolled under on wounds. You just got to have armies that are reliable. You've got to be able to put them in a spot and go, this is what it does relentlessly again and again, or that can take a bad turn, like the Polish Guard army that Skark ran last year that had just so many artillery pieces and the chimeras to remove cover. It might have a bad shooting phase and you don't lose a lot, but it won't do it for 5 turns in a row. It'll punish you eventually. I think that my list had a couple of swingy units that we were trying for novelty, but maybe didn't work in that regard. Had a great weekend though.
All good.
But the question that everybody wants to know is, did we get any of our predictions right?
Not a single one. Like, they're pretty much back to front.
Do you know what, right? Loads of good players lost games this weekend, and people were genuinely shocked. And go on.
Can we talk about the Extinguisher? The absolute legend. My good friend Tanj, James McLaugh, he was on an absolute tear this weekend.
If you
I
head
think
over to the 40k Fireside podcast, they'll probably talk about him.
yeah, I think he'll come up a lot on their episode. But what an absolute hero! I mean, he pairs into was it Dave first or was it Vic? I think it was
He
Vic.
paired into Vic on game 3 on Saturday and beat him, and then paired into Dave Gaylord on the Sunday morning and beat him as well, and then lost to Eldar in the last game.
Yeah, and that's his nemesis. He hates Eldar. He's like, I'll play anything but Eldar.
Well, I
And
actually think
he's kind of got to be for Eldar.
his list is not good into that Eldar build on that mission on Scorched because it's very good, has lots of options, and I think that both David's and Vic's armies aren't quite ready for the what it brings in terms of hulls, and it's very much what Alex Harrison was bringing, what we talked about previously, where it's a variation of he's got the Redeemer, Land Redeemer in hits, but he's got Primaris Sword Brethren, he's got vehicles, he's got the Triple Valiants. There's just loads and loads of bodies and hulls that are really hard to get through. He's got loads of Crusader squads. They're really tough as well.
Yeah.
He's gone Firestorm. I didn't realise he'd gone Firestorm. I thought he'd gone Iron Hands. Oh, even more interesting.
Come on, you'll know more. You'll know what this does, Tony. Come on, what does Firestorm give you over Iron Hands?
So your Firestorm, you're getting assault move and everything. You're getting the options to have +1 to wound in combat shooting, but it's also giving you rerolls on all of your close range stuff if you want it. And you're looking at his squads. He's got Helbrecht. Yeah, Helbrecht in there is really good in a squad of Primaris Sword Brethren because that is the Marine answer to a Chaos Lord and Chosen. It is just scary. The Valiant with triple multi-melters absolutely rinses anything that stands in front of it. It's just scary. Have you played against the Redeemer before?
I've played against the Redeemer, but normally they'd have some guys to go inside it that were aggressors, right? That was the combo you used to see, but I don't see any aggressors here.
You can run the aggressors, but that takes you down a very certain path because they play the game in a certain way. They've got to have the buff character. They want to have a relic that has a particular style or option in it. And really, this army's going, once I get within 12 and I'm +1 strength and all my shooting, then it's really good. All of my guns are assault, so you kind of get the advance and shoot option that you get in the Iron Storm without needing it. The Inceptors, I'm surprised he hasn't got more actually. He's gone for 5 with Plasma and 5 with Assault Bolters. So they're the ones that you can really play. Okay, +1 to wound, +1 strength. It tips the Plasma certainly over the bracket where they are reliably killing rhinos and killing vehicles and they're putting the damage on chosen things more reliably. It's just lots and lots of good firepower. And then the Crusaders at 65 points, I think I mentioned them in the last one. 5 guys with a multi-melter, a melter gun, a power fist, and an inferno pistol that are OC2 and that can reroll their advance or charge move means that they can get out of a tank 3 and very reliably go 9 to 12 inches and shoot their multi-melter, melter gun, inferno pistol and throw grenades. Like, they're really good 65-point squads. Most Black Templars players expect those to go up in points just because they're obviously priced to go in units of 10 in bigger armies, but when they're 65 points with all those war gear options, very efficient. Calidus Assassin is just common sense in most Imperium lists. That's a really clever list. I can see why both those players struggled though, because Vic's got lots of Space Marine units in tanks, but he doesn't necessarily go through armor very well. I don't know what he puts into that Land Redeemer with AOC and cover to kill it. I just don't see it, and it's flaming any sort of chosen that want to charge it, anything that wants to get near it.
Yeah.
And Dave probably is the same thing. He's got his Necrons.
Well, Dave's list doesn't do damage. This is the problem, and
he's got a Catan, or he's got no Catan.
Dave took the Void Dragon. So as soon as the Void Dragon's actually very good into vehicles. But I imagine that died quite quick as soon as it came out.
Well, it'll come out, it'll engage, and then all of the melters will shoot. And then Helbrecht's squad, because the Sword Brethren can be +1 damage or +1 attack, the +1 damage just negates the debuff from the Catan. And then you're going, I'm doing a lot of damage to that.
And the damage is after, right? So you go from 1 damage to 2, and it doesn't get halved because you halve the 1 to 1, and it goes back to 2, right? So
yeah, that's bad for the Catan. Yeah. So you have to play a game of keep away.
And even things like these bolter squads, I imagine that'll do a number, right? They get +1 to wound and their strength 6.
I'm just looking at he's literally got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, 13, 14, 15, 18, 18, 21. He's got 22 melter weapons that if you get within 12 of his army, he can pretty easily bring to bear.
Yeah.
That's not even anything else, just 21 melter weapons. -4, d6 plus 2 damage. That's a lot of firepower. Eldar don't care about that, but unlucky. James, that's a great run. Well done. And both those players are top players. I think our ranking reflects the fact that those players hit the wrong list in the wrong missions and really struggled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, I'd agree.
I think Josh was running a top of the meta list that has already been nerfed and wouldn't work the same. Ed was doing a stat check because he ran essentially 120 Marines on foot. And it's just, if you can kill a load of Marine Horde, as Josh did actually play him and beat him on the top final 4, you could do something. Manny is the world champion of Warhammer for 440,000. And even though he brought a list that is actually a toned down Khorne list that doesn't, for World Eaters, that doesn't have all the tools and tricks, I think nobody is surprised to look at it and go, but he's outplayed his opponents. He's played 5 guys, played a mirror match, and he's just, even though the mirror might even be better equipped to play him, he's got the models in the right place, he's rolled the right dice, he's done many things, and like Angron's always alive. That is a terrible list to give Manny to. Oh, don't roll 6s and Angron won't come back. I would hate to play him with that.
Coming back every turn for Manny.
Oh, 100%.
Guaranteed.
And then we look down the other ones and we go, Naseem. Now, Naseem's guard list was an absolute punisher when we were playtesting it a lot. And he's gradually taken some of the artillery out, but it's just lots and lots of guard shooting and then utility units that are going to move up at you, scout at you, can move really quickly at you. There's mortal wounds in the movement phase, there's good shooting, there's reasonable combat in the bullgrin. It really is a great all-comers list. He played Alex last game. I was very, very lucky to beat him. There was a phase where Alex's list, it was all marine tanks, brought to bear quite a lot of multi-melters, and they just bounced. So, well done to Naz on winning that game, but they both were there going, if on a different day, Alex absolutely melts his way through the army. And his army was a great stat check. Alex Harrison had a great weekend run with that. And I think there'll be a few people looking at that Marine army thinking that's quite a clever list. It's tons of guns. I think the core of the list for me is a triple Valiant. And what you put around that, it really is up to you. But just as 3 tanks that have a real mixture of shooting in Black Templars, because without the multi-melter, 150 point... Sorry, triple Valiant, that's the multi-melter one. Triple Reaper. The Triple Reaper in a normal Marine list is just nowhere near as scary as Triple Reaper with 3 multi-melters on top when you've got a reroll hit and wound on every tank. Because you're just relying on, I'm going to do loads of dev wounds, I'm going to do extra shots. Oh, but there's also 2 really high damage shots coming in behind. It makes those tanks so much more useful in terms of a utility unit. I think it's a really clever in Black Templars. Be interested to see if they make it through the data slate without Games Workshop realising that maybe a multi-melter is like a 15-point gun on every tank. And those squads are a bit cheap. We had, now in between Naz and Alex, Will ended up being the top of the kind of the 4 in the draws, and he had a good weekend. He lost in the kill more, hold more. He was talking to me about it, and he said it was just he hit an army where it was a struggle to play. I'm just going to find him actually now. Just say.
No, he drew. It was Necrons, right?
But he drew 98-98 against.
I mean, that can happen on that mission. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something to think about. If I was going to take that chaos list of teams, I'd be looking at what do I need this list to do? I need it to push differentials, and I need it to beat people. And if it's bringing 3 units of a Kirsten isn't dominating the table and dominating the primary, I don't know if it does the job. Because 98-98 is, your basic WTC flat draw 10-10. That isn't what I want from my top of the meta chaos list. So that's an interesting result there. I was surprised that he got a draw in that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's against Necrons though. It's
Wraiths.
Like I've they're very
durable. Yeah.
It's very swingy, but it's not. But it's swingy. Like it always tends to be swingy towards the Necron race.
I can't imagine that he's played 100 games with his accursed into the Necrons in the new build, especially not the Wraith Wall as it is. And that list looks particularly Wraith Wall actually, in terms of the combat it's brought. Catans and 18 Wraiths just running bodies and things that are hard to get through. So we had Will, Alex, then Courtney. Courtney had a good run with his Chaos Knights. Then Vic. Shout out to Marcus Hinton. He's in there as well. You're there, Chris, in 30th. 30th not bad overall. 30th.
Yeah, it was my last game. Took me down a lot of points. It's going 61 in that, so tanked me quite a bit.
And then it's me and Tom, and then Nathan at the bottom because Nathan had to drop on the Sunday because he was a bit worse for wear.
Whose fault was that, Tony?
Don't know. Unnamed persons shall be responsible. But I had a great weekend. I took an Eldar list that was not the standard Eldar list just because I wanted to run it. I wanted to see have a little play with Eldar for potentially Wraiths get nerfed, potentially characters get nerfed, Night Spinners might go. Lots of people at the weekend were talking about what the slate could bring. And I suppose wish listing really. I heard a lot of people say that they hoped that artillery goes back to how they had it at the end of the last edition, where it's kind of -1 to hit and -1 to your AP, because a lot of people felt that when Games Workshop did that and limited Desolators down to 5s and really addressed how prolific artillery was, the game was in a really good spot. Yes, you could take a unit to chip in or to do damage or to pin something, that's great, but you didn't take 3 Night Spinners and ruin somebody's army and send the Incarn over there. I think I could see it going that way. It'll be interesting to see whether they just go too far and that's it, artillery's dead. Because I do think having 1 or 2 artillery pieces in an army is definitely a playstyle choice. What do you think?
Artillery pieces, I'm totally fine with them just being removed from the game. Just delete indirect. But if you're taking them, they should be used as these suppression tools. They should just give them the the -2 move, advance, charge. That's cool. That's thematic. They shouldn't just be killing good units. They can kill chaff, fine. That's nice. It's a bit of reach to get behind ruins where you don't normally have it for things like guard, where they don't have this sort of fast combat to dig people out. But when you turn up to a table and you go in, all right, prime example at WTC. So Alex played Thousand Suns. And Alex was running just I think it was 9 artillery pieces at the time. And it was we had it down as a really good win. Alex goes first in that game. It's a 20-0. He just absolutely obliterates Thousand Suns. But what his opponent realized was, if I go second, I know I'm getting 20-0'd. So what I'm going to do is put every single unit on the line. Yeah. And if I go first, well, I'm going to 20-0 you. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
Completely in the open, completely on the line, went first, just rushed the artillery, got into them, and just messed them up.
There's definitely some tweaks. I mean, I think you could go the -1 hit, -1 AP. You could go.
I like that. The ballistic skill, Tony.
You could go. You could just go. Don't change the AP. Don't change the damage. But all out as line of sight shooting counts as Overwatch. Hits on 6s.
Oh, that is savage.
Why?
I mean, I'm fine for it, but it is savage.
But when you see, it's when you've got units that take the Night Spinner, it re-rolls a hit roll, it hits on 4s, can have re-roll hits from a Farseer, and re-rolls wounds. It's basically re-rolling everything anyway. The people's problem with it is when they've got artillery, it's usually buffable to the point where it's so good, you're like, great. Take Marines with Mercy's Weakness. You're doing a wound on something, then you're firing your Whirlwind, and you're popping the Strat on the Whirlwind. I mean, these are the things where none of the armies that have artillery that's rubbish don't take it. But if you've got the ability to give it reroll hits and reroll wounds, or one of those two with a reliable reroll hit or a reroll wound, you're just taking it in because it's such a good utility piece. And in a game that's built around, you want to get the right angle, you want to push onto an objective in the open at the right time, or you want to be able to move and shoot and not be killed. Those are the top armies do those things. They don't present you with their army and just tank. That isn't really something in this edition. Custodes at the beginning did that, not anymore. I think that's a big playstyle choice for Games Workshop and where they want the game to go. I'll be interested to see what they do with that in whatever the slate comes out to be.
Yeah, fingers crossed it's next week.
Yeah, in theory.
Hopefully it's next week. I really want it to be next week because the ITT list submission will be
Looming.
that
I
weekend,
believe
right?
looming is the word we're going to go with because we need
A
to
week
start.
Sunday.
Yeah, it's all coming around really quickly. So ITT is our next one. So we will be back in a couple of weeks to talk about ITT because I'm going to the ITT with a team of friendly wargamers that you might know.
A team of sweaty bastards.
Whoa,
That's what
whoa,
you're
whoa,
going with.
whoa, whoa,
Come on.
whoa! What are
You,
you saying?
you are. You've gone for it. You've made your little team ages ago. You've been like, guys, come on, who are we gonna pick? Who's the best? Let's take these.
Look, there's
And
only me, Manny, Josh, Inners, and Nathan Roberts. It's not a big deal. It's just 5 guys going to
what's
roll
your
some
team
dice.
name?
Extinguish.
Is that try again, round 2.
Well, yeah, that last time that was just Manny running with some fun games in Cardiff. This is for the big boy games, but it is interesting to see how we think the game is going to go. We're all waiting for the data slate because obviously game as it runs at the moment. I'm running Eldar. I'm probably going to run something. I probably would look at something similar to Jockle, or I'd run a tilt and I'd go 20 Wraith Guard, 30 Wraith Guard, 50 Wraith Guard, 50 Wraith Guard. Just run 50 Wraith Guard.
It's so difficult at the minute, isn't it? Because like everyone knows what the current armies are. There's going to be, if it's as is, there's going to be Canoptek Corps out the wazoo. There's going to be Eldar. There'll be CSM. There'll be World Eater.
Anybody worth a salt, if they're going to ITT, if we know that there's a slate coming and we have to have a week less practice, but we can play with the new rules that will run for the next 6 months, would much rather do that and have a go.
Absolutely.
There's no fun at an event going, like even at the weekend going, well, this is a great Necron list, but it's the last time I ever get to play it. It's just not fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be, we're back in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about some factions and we'll have a look at some lists and we'll hopefully have a little idea where that event's going. We've also got some TTS events coming up for Team England in the next couple of weeks to be confirmed. So I will come back. We'll talk about lists for that and the teams for that. We can give you guys a little insight on where we're up to with those things. But otherwise, I think we're going to wrap up with, we obviously can't predict anything in 40k, but that weekend was a weekend of going around the hall and going, my word, this guy's lost, this guy's lost, this guy's beaten this guy, what's going on? Shout outs to our good friend Mike Duff, came in 135th for Grey Knight, lost his first game to Yockle, and it was a really close game actually. Yockle, who would go on to play Josh, there was a couple of clutch moments where he rolled like double or triple one on his librarians, and otherwise he could have won the game. So he had a good. Marcus Hinson did really well, only lost one game with his Tau Empire. Lost in the 4th round to Jockle again on the way. Yeah, I thought it was. Jockle just going through and smashing all Team England players. And then Mark Pocock was running his Ironstorm and he lost to Malik at the start of the weekend, which is no shame in that, and then lost to Marcus at the end of the weekend. So
team kill.
I know, yeah. So there was a really great number of England guys there that weekend, and we had loads of people come over and say hello and say they listen to the stuff we're putting out for the podcast. So if that was you and you spoke to myself or Chris, you got to play one of the England guys, I hope you had a great weekend and you really enjoyed it. Big shout out to Zach and the UKTC team for having us all over there. It was a great event. We really enjoyed it, and we'll certainly be coming back for ITT. And then it's Manchester in March, isn't it, as well? God, busy couple of months at the start of the year as we get into the new.
I mean, there's a big South Coast one as well, but I think we're too northern for that.
A younger Tony might have made it to the other side of the country, but an old Tony with commitments and just not to travel down to the south unless it is something superb. So that one I might skip. And also we've got like Home Nations and other events coming up.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Busy couple of months for Team England. Guys, thanks so much for listening tonight. Big shout out to our sponsors, BCP. You can go find out everything about that event, Nottingham 40k Super Major. You can see the list, you can see the placings, you can see what the opponents ran. Really great tool, whether it's the app or the website, to go and have a look at it. If you're interested in getting some 40k games in, we have a series of RTTs with our sponsor, Crazy Warboss Gaming. They are based currently out of Glasshammer, but are looking to expand into some bigger, larger super major events over the coming months. So if you're interested though in some RTTs or some team events in the meantime, go and find them on Facebook and have a look at what they've got in their events calendar. And finally, if you want to get some of our amazing Team England dice or objective mats, you can find us on the Discord. The link on the last video we put out for the pre-tournament apparently has expired. I have updated on that one, but the link on this video will definitely work. We have some of our dice for sale, which are produced in conjunction with our other sponsor, the Scrapyard Orc, who does amazing sets of custom dice, all sorts of cool 40k and non-40k related logos, if that's kind of stuff you really like, getting custom dice to go with your army. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much for supporting. Make sure if you're finding us on YouTube, you're dropping a like and subscribe, and wherever else you're finding us, drop a like, drop a comment, say hi, and we'll catch you in a couple of weeks.